Lovely. So can I start by asking, you're playing Joan Baez, you're singing, you're performing. Where do you begin trying to figure out how to make the role your own?
I know it's a thing that people have sort of talked about. I mean, I don't really feel like I was working to make Joan my own. The intention was not to mimic her or have the portrayal be any kind of imitation of her. But I really wasn't trying to infuse myself in this either. I think it was just about getting as close as I could to embodying her, to understanding maybe how she ticks, what she might be thinking in any given moment. But then for me, the work was sort of letting all of that go and just being present with usually Timmy in the scene, or Timmy as Bob, very much so Bob, not even really Timmy, and trusting the writing on the page and Jim's direction and his orchestration of these scenes, letting go and responding to what our wonderful audiences were giving us. But I really don't feel like I was putting my stamp on it. I think that's inevitable because it is through me, but that really wasn't something that I actively tried to do.
Right, absolutely. Well, I mean, let's talk about the relationship between Joan and Bob. I mean, it's a very complicated one. Tell me about how it was to sort of navigate that with Timothée.
Well, I mean, there again, I think we just showed up as much like sort of fully formed versions of Joan and Bob as we could, and I felt so completely trusting of his portrayal and his understanding of Bob, and of the words on the page. Between Jay Cox and James Mangold, the scenes are beautiful and were sort of the guide for us, and just for me, a lot of this was just very much present moment experience. Yeah. Well,
tell me about the environment then that James creates that kind of lets that happen for you.
Well, he's very he's a huge advocate for actors in that if I want to walk from point A to point B, but there's a camera there, my instinct would be to try to accommodate and move around the camera, and he'd sort of stop me and say, no, it's on wheels for a reason. It'll, walk where Joan would walk. We'll figure it out, which you don't often get, particularly in the TV world, but just in general. You have to sort of accommodate. And he just wanted us to have every freedom to explore the space and be fully formed characters. And then as far as him designing sort of how the scenes would go, we talked about it very little. We rehearsed very little. We sort of went through and made sure everything still, all the words on the page still resonated with us, and that everything felt really authentic. And as we were filming, sometimes he'd say, "Stop saying that, say this instead," or "Let's just take that line out." And he also trusts the actors to kind of, sometimes you kick out a line and you just hold a reaction, or he would hold on a reaction of ours and have that be, enough, as opposed to having to say what we're feeling. So it's really easy to trust his process in that way, not just because he's had so much incredible work, already, so many beautiful films out there, but also because he just very clearly seems to know what he wants. Of course, then he comes out and says, like, everyone thinks I have a plan and I don't, and I trust the actors. And but I think that it's a mutual sort of a collective trust experience, because it is a bunch of trust falls over and over again.
Well, and can I ask about this moment in music history that the film covers? Because it is the emergence of Bob Dylan. It's very much a film about him. But I feel like the ensemble plays its role as well, and there's a real sense of what's going on at that time. What do you think the film captures about this particular sort of explosion in culture?
I think it's really incredible the way you feel that collective community in every scene. I mean, even there are so many scenes where Bob is walking down the street and you feel that explosion of this cultural moment. You hear the music, you hear the sounds of the New York streets. And I feel like every frame is just full of life and other people in a nice way, because it doesn't just, take you off on a mental spiral of a person whose mind we can't read.
And what do you think is going to surprise people about this film?
God, I don't know. I don't know what people's expectations are, really.
I suppose there's a whole like sort of chapter of the audience that will not be aware, I suppose, of this history.
Yeah, I think it'll be different for everybody. I mean, I think there will be people who will be surprised by our ability to capture the time. I think there will be people who are surprised by the music itself and surprised by new fanship of Bob and Joe. I mean, we hope, we hope people gain interest in all of these musicians if they don't already have it. And I don't think it's surprising that Timmy's incredible in it, but I think, for anyone, I think people who do have an attachment to Bob and Joan and Johnny and Pete, I hope they're pleasantly surprised by what they see.
And I meant what I said last night. As ironic as it may sound, like the moments of music in this film really do feel electric. Especially House of the Rising Sun is, I think it's my favorite scene in the film.
Oh my God! Wow, thank you.
But so I just want to ask you about what the atmosphere is like in the room on those days that you're performing, that you're watching others perform. What kind of magic is in the air, I suppose.
It really did feel very magical to watch each other perform. My very first day, I was shooting outside the Chelsea Hotel, but before that, it was I got to watch Ed on the steps of City Hall, and every time I drive by it in New York now, I feel the weight of that moment, and that was just incredible to see him play and perform immediately. And then same with Timmy, getting to rehearse the music with him was like mind-blowing. And then to see him up there performing and captivating an audience was, it really was magical. I think when it came to my own, it was mostly terror, especially in the beginning, and especially with that song, because I knew the weight of it. It's a very difficult song. It's slow. It's an early song for Joan. You have to sort of there's a tall order, and that you have to win over the audience and show them someone they recognize as Joan. But the more we performed, the more comfortable it became. And then by the time we were playing It Ain't Me, Babe, and Mama, You've Been on My Mind, we're just having a blast. That was just really, really fun. And we only had so many takes, and it just was like we had gotten it at that point. And so it felt celebratory and fun, and you could lace in all of the emotion with it. And so it's a different kind of magic, I think.
Did that, the whole Newport stuff, did it feel like being at your own festival?
It did, as much as I could possibly know. I mean, my prior experience with festivals was literally only pretty much bartending at festivals, and I used to bartend at Outside Lands in San Francisco, to get by as a commercial actor. But yeah, it felt as close as I've ever been to performing at a music festival, and we'd be in back playing riffs and learning from each other, and getting to see Boyd perform for the first time as Johnny was just incredible, and just lit up the entire audience and backstage, and everyone's dancing, even sort of behind the wings in Video Village, people are moving, and God, it was so fun. I'd love to be backstage at a music festival at this point and see if any of it, kind of aligns.
There's still time. We can make that happen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.